Hey there, everybody. It is your good pal and mine, Preston Black. This past couple weeks has been pretty challenging as far as getting together has been. We weren't able to get a session in with anybody this week, and so I thought I would just fill some space here on this lovely Saturday and just do a one-off session of one of my favorites. So this is Castlevania 3 on the NES. I'm playing on the Wii U Virtual Console. Oops. Here we go. Captain Stick Figure is my actual gamer tag. So, so this is my favorite. This is one of my favorite games, and it is a really good one. And it is the NES. Turn my volume up here a little bit. Whoa, that's way too loud. Hey, everybody, how's it going? This is one of my favorites. This is Castlevania 3 from the NES. It is the third Castlevania game, and it is about a Castlevania. That is my book report. This is a really fun one. I think I find it the most accessible. I think this is the best, the better of the three NES Castlevanias. It's not nearly as I don't find it nearly as difficult as the original Castlevania, and it's not immensely convoluted like Castlevania 2, Simon's Quest. This also is the basis for the Netflix series Castlevania. Follows the story of this game. So there's another little factoid, which I think most people know. And so I'm not giving you anything new. But basically, the premise of the game is that obviously Dracula has cursed the land. So it's much more about exploring, and I do use the term exploring pretty loosely because it is a 2D side-scroller on NES, so there's not a lot of exploring. It's mostly just in stages. I guess that's not fair because there were other more open worlds style 2D platformers on NES. It's not something that never happened. But it was pretty rare. And so, but, I think in the same way that Castlevania 2 was about sort of exploring Transylvania, that's sort of the idea here as well. It's less focused on the castle itself, although there is a lot of castle stages. But usually there's only 2 or 3 stages that actually take place in actual Transylvania before you get to the castle. And this one, I think there's a lot more focus on the land, and there is you have choices of which stages to play. So it's a little bit open in that regard. It's not completely linear, although they all lead to the same place. But there's sort of a more difficult path and an easier path, I think. For me, the main selling point of this game is that you can rescue and ally yourself with other people. Just like in the TV show, you can have a sidekick or in the Netflix show, I should say. I don't know if it's appropriate to say that Netflix is TV necessarily, but anyway, in the series in Castlevania, was it Trevor? I think I always get the names mixed up, but it doesn't really matter. Allies himself with Sypha and Alucard, the same Alucard that we see in Symphony of the Night. And so you can switch freely in between playing as Trevor and whoever you are allied with at the time. And you can only have one. And it's possible to encounter one potential ally while you are already in the company of another, and in that case you would have to choose between them. You can't have more than one at a time. And there is a third character who has not been introduced in the TV show, much to my dismay, because he is my favorite of the three, and that is Grant. And I've talked about him on the show, and I'm sure this is an old game. It's 30 years old at this point. Grant is a pirate, and I think I can't remember if they specifically say that he's a pirate. He's a pirate in my mind, and he looks kind of piratey on the box art. But I think it's clear that he's meant to be a sailor at the very least. And so he can climb on walls and ceilings, and is fantastic. I'm gonna murder this skeleton monster here. Yeah, he's a lot of fun to play with because you can just scale a bunch of walls and find like sort of secret ways to get through stages without having to fight a lot of monsters. Sorry, I'm yawny. I'm always yawny as soon as I start talking. I think it's just because like the air in my apartment gets a little bit stuffy. So yeah, so I'm gonna go straight for Grant. So this is our first web, so we can go to, we go south, I think that's the way to get Sypha. Well, we're gonna have to go that way anyway, but we're gonna go to the clock tower, which is, as previously stated, in our Castlevania Symphony of the Night series. The clock tower is always my favorite spot in any Castlevania game. I like the steampunk kind of aesthetic, and especially in this one, I really like the colors that they do. These like really bright, oops, I do that every single time. These really bright like greens and purples in this stage. I like frequently the design for like the backgrounds of the clock tower areas are sort of like only like half, like you see that there's that like brick texture, but it's only on some of the wall, so it really gives you the feeling that like the tower that you're in is falling apart. So the clock tower this is interesting because the clock tower is normally one of the like usually comes at like the tail end of the game, I feel like, and it's meant to be sort of close to Dracula's keep. And in fact, in Super Castlevania 4, which is generally just like a remake of, or what we would call now a remaster of the first Castlevania. It's the same story, you play as the same character, a lot of the bosses are the same. The clock tower is like the last stage. No, it's the second to last stage. Third to last? No, I don't know. But it's towards the end. And when we get to the in-between stages here, you get like quick little glimpses at the world map, and you can see that the clock tower is sort of it's very close to Castlevania, the castle. And there's like a bridge that goes from the clock tower to the main castle. But we have to turn around and go back, which is another really cool part of this game, which I'll talk about a little bit more when it comes up. But basically what happens, this game is 30 years old, so I don't really care much about giving you spoilers. Essentially what happens here is we'll get to the top of the clock tower, we'll fight the boss, And in so doing, the clock tower is destroyed, so it starts to crumble. So we have to make our way back down. So the third stage is that we have to play the clock tower in reverse. And I mean, the tech isn't so impressive that like the place is falling down around you, which would be very, very cool. But it's still neat to have to play this game. I have to play this stage completely as it is, but in reverse. But it's good. Ugh! Come on. I hate the Medusa heads. Get out of here. Are Medusa heads like the worst enemy in the Castlevania franchise? Be careful, because if I jump too high, I could actually hit my head on those spikes. I can clip right through the that floor and hit my head on the spikes and get instant death. Ew. This is a very hard stage, I think, for being the second stage in the game, or what is potentially the second stage in the game, since you can completely skip it. And it's sort of, I think there's an aspect that, like, that they didn't quite have the technology to, like, completely pull off what they wanted to do. So some of it is very clunky and it can be hard to maneuver. But I'm almost to the end of it here. They also only start you with 2 lives, which is pretty bold. I might die in this room. Just because of all the Medusa heads. It's really awful. Jumping is really wonky. You can't change direction in midair, so the physics don't allow that. So if there's just like a little hill that you have to jump, you have to start off jumping in the direction, or you just jump straight up. Fuck. I knew it. I knew I would do that. That's a very hard jump. Ugh. I think I'm also sort of used to playing like more modern Castlevania games where you have the ability to jump while you're on the stairs. And so I frequently get trapped on stairs when there's like Medusa heads coming at me, and I try to jump and nothing happens, and it is the sound of my demise. Ugh. Go, 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 go. And I just have to keep moving at a certain point. Fuck. Ugh. See, that's one that I could have just jumped over if this was a different game. Alright, don't fuck up, don't fuck up. Whew. Those Medusa heads are the bane of my existence. When I die and go to hell, it's just gonna be Medusa heads everywhere. This fool. Alright. Come on. There we go. Zip. Zip. Alright, here we are at the boss. Not super hard. Kind of just like, I don't know what the actual name of the boss is, but it's essentially just Monstrous Grant. Yep. The worst part is he moves so fast that it's hard to get gain on him and then turn around and hit him with something. But he takes damage pretty well, so... This is getting to be about the end of it here. Nice. All right, so we're gonna take on Grant. I'll go for a little bit longer today and do a couple more stages. I don't think I can beat this game in one sitting. It's hard enough that it's still a challenge for me to get through it. She goes, turn into a ghost. Huh. Wow. Yeah, I'll help you out, dude. Yeah, let's go. And he's very fast. Don't forget about that aspect. Left-handed shake. And the clock tower is starting to fall apart, or else we would go that way, I guess. And the bridge collapsed, so we have to go all the way around to get to the other side of the castle. All right, I'm gonna go back in here, even though this room just collapsed. Goodies. Is there something here? No. And how do I change? There we go. Select. That's how you change. So you can kind of get a. They don't have shared health, which is kind of nice. But they also don't get shared healing, so yeah, it's really easy. It can be a little bit hard to like change direction like that, because you have to. I'm gonna keep using the stick. It's a little bit easier to use the control pad because you have to be pushing against the surface that you're walking on. So when you change direction like that, you have to change the direction that you're putting your pressure on the control pad, and it's a little bit harder on the stick because it's not as clearly defined which direction you're pushing. And because this is an NES, you have to be completely like accurate. There's just 4 directions. So if you're even just a little bit off with the control stick, it can cause you a lot of trouble. Speaking of a lot of trouble, a lot of this can just be jumped down, which is kind of fun. But then you want to be careful of any potential hazards that you might experience. Yep. And then he's got a very, very, very short range little dagger that he fights with, so he's not the best for fighting, but he's very fast, so kind of makes up for it. So there's the thing up here that I can now get. I always get nervous when I'm doing that. Oh, it's a 1-up. Chill. Because if you drop, that's the end of you. And because you can't change directions in midair, if you're falling, you're just committed to going straight down. Yep. But Grant is a lot of fun to play. Yep. And he has got jumps, as you can see. Shit. Probably should have turned back into Trevor to do that. To just climb those stairs. Because Grant is like super finicky to play. But he's so much fun. He's very fast. I love climbing on ceilings. Whoops. Ooh. Just overall, he's great fun to play. A lot of fantastic memories of playing this game as a kid. I'm gonna turn back into Trevor. It's weird that you have to turn back into Trevor to do the stairs, but he moves a lot slower, so when you're next to a pit like that, it's a lot easier. You can just dip right through here. This might be more or less difficult with Grant because of his hops, but yeah, I guess we're fine. We don't have to do the second one because we're just going down these stairs. I find myself like changing in between using the stick and oops, using the control pad. It's more natural for walking, but for any kind of like articulation, it's way easier to use the let's see here. Yeah, it's way easier to just use Trevor for like going near pits, essentially. Sometimes Grant just moves so fast that you can't get that like exact positioning right that the NES requires you to have. Yep. And that's it, we're done. No boss. The music in this game is also pretty fucking stellar. Alright. So now we're going, this would be the stage. I believe that we would have played if we had gotten Sypha. No. Sypha takes you to a cemetery. I believe, I don't know. I could be 100% wrong. Oof. Hip. 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 Oop. Fuck. Oh, I might be making a huge mistake as playing with Grant right now. I'm gonna change. Oh, they do have shared life. That's bad news. Yeah, Trevor's much better for like direct combat just because he has got that range whip. Grant's really hard because he attacks very quickly. The whip is more sustained. So even if you don't get a direct hit with the whip, usually just like having that sustained attack is will help you out. Blood skeletons are awful because they not only do they not die, but they also follow you. Oh, I always really liked this. That like, I don't know if that's supposed to be like a swamp haze or what. Here we kind of are like a swamp area. Oh, it's like storm. I guess it's just like mist in general. It's actually like there's some in the foreground as well. It's hard to really notice, but yeah, it's just like I guess it's just mist. I never really got that until right now. Very, very cool. Man, what a great game. Yeep! Let's go. Let's go. Alright, what fresh horrors? That's the stage where Sypha is. The one up on the top. But I am going to go through this stage. Because I like it. This is the swamp area. I love the music in this stage. Alright, I don't think the water hurts me, but I can drown. And of course the like never-ending supply of frogs is shitty. Alright, well I'm gonna call it there. That was great fun. Hey, thanks for chilling out with me. I hope you enjoyed this one-off. I'm sure we'll get back to this game at some point eventually in the future. Maybe in like 5 years or so. Alright, goodbye everybody.
Preston. Can you